6:30. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Marin Local Agency Formation Commission, Thursday, April 11, 2019. Candace, would you please call the roll? Oh.
Thank you.
You know what? I didn't have the mic on. Let's do that again. Welcome to the meeting of the Marin Local Agency Formation Commission, Thursday, April 11, 2019. Candace, will you please take the roll with the mic on this time?
Is it really on? Hello?
Yours is on.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Is it on? Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that. Sashi McEntee.
Present.
Craig K. Murray.
Here.
Sloan Bailey.
Here.
Jack Baker.
Here.
Damon Conley.
Here.
Dennis Rodoni.
Here.
Chris Skelton.
Here.
Alternates, Lou Caius.
Here.
And Matt Brown.
Here.
Roll has been taken and we have a quorum.
Return to closed session to consider a couple of items, and we'll return approximately at 7 p.m. We're going to go in the conference room. Guys ready? Okay. All right, thank you. We're going to return to open session, and actually, Mala, do you want to report out, please?
Sure. The commission gave direction to their labor negotiators.
Good. All right, so we're moving to agenda review. Anybody have anything they want to move or change?
Move to approve agenda.
By Commissioner Murray. Do I have a second? Seconded by Commissioner Skelton. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you very much. All right. And now we'll move to public open time. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons desiring to address the commission on any matter not on the current agenda. All statements that require a response will be referred to staff for reply in writing or will be placed on the commission's agenda for consideration at a later meeting. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Do we have any public comment? Yep. Seeing none, I will close the public comment. Public open time. Moving to the consent calendar. These items are considered ministerial and non-substantive and subject to a single motion or approval. Does anyone want to pull anything from the consent calendar? Yes. Okay. Does anyone want to make a motion on the consent calendar with Commissioner Bailey abstaining from the minutes?
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Baker, seconded by Commissioner Murray. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you very much. Okay, yes, and please note that Commissioner Bailey abstains from the minutes. Okie dokie. Moving on to the business items. Executive Officer Freed, please.
Sure, Jason Freed, your executive officer. The next item on the agenda is the continuation of the public member appointments. I believe that one of our commissioners needs to recuse himself on this one.
I am going to recuse myself.
Thank you. So as he's recusing himself and going out to the public area, in front of you today is a continuation of the discussion we had at the last meeting. Two things you should have in front of you: a letter from one of the candidates, Larry Loader, who could not make it tonight. He was off traveling and so is not able to be here and apologized for not being able to be here and plans to be here at future meetings should he be appointed. That letter's in front of you. We also did get a letter of support for one of the other candidates, which is also in front of you. So that was all the correspondence we got on this matter. Both of those came in this week, so that's why they were not included in the packet itself. So at that note, I will yield to the commission to deliberate amongst itself as to what it would like to do.
All right. Yes. Chair Murray.
Jason, were all the candidates invited back to this meeting? Did they receive notice?
I reminded them on Monday of this week that this meeting was occurring. And so I did not send anything to them prior to that. At the last meeting, we did make the comment that that this meeting was occurring. I will make note that there was also a comment that they didn't necessarily need to show up to this meeting either. So it wasn't a requirement of ours based on what the discussion was at the end of the discussion last meeting for them to have to return today since you had done the interview already.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Baker.
As a couple of you may know, I supported Larry Loader the last time, and I expect to do tonight. He did call me a few days ago, wondering what's going on. He was surprised he hadn't gotten any letter from staff that acknowledged his participation in the last meeting and reminding him, or if he hadn't noted, heard or wasn't clear when the next meeting would be, the one tonight. So again, he is traveling. He couldn't make it back for tonight and was rather surprised. A letter from staff advising about the meeting tonight. So that had been his intention. But for, and maybe some would say he should have listened better or something, but he didn't get it as well as we did, and perhaps the two applicants sitting there. So he had intended to be here, and unfortunately, he wasn't aware of the continuation, so that's why he's not sitting there. Thank you.
Right. I'm going to suggest that we maybe give the two candidates that are here, 2 or 3 minutes to refresh us on their background, and then see if there are any questions from the commission. Does anyone have any?
I'll just say one thing, although I apologize, by the way, I missed the last meeting. At our executive officer's suggestion, I watched the video, the whole thing. So, and besides reading the packet, it was a good suggestion, Jason. I'm making fun of it, but it was a useful exercise. And just for what it's worth, I have heard at least what was said at the last meeting.
Okay. All right. Well, why don't we start with Chris Skelton, if you want to give us 2 or 3 minutes of, or what should we say here? 3 minutes?
My name is Chris Skelton. I am applying for the opportunity to serve as the full-time public member for the commission. I am not too sure what else I can add that I didn't previously share at the prior meeting, so I'll make myself available for comments or questions that you may have. I remain dedicated to LAFCo and public service in general. I believe this is an opportunity to give back to the community and hopefully contribute to the broader goals that the commission is trying to follow. So, thank you.
Any questions from the commission for Mr. Skelton before he goes away? Any questions from the alternates?
No.
No? Okay. Mr. Waldeck.
For the benefit of Mr. Bailey, who's not here, you saw it, I just thought I would tell you about myself. I was born in San Francisco, was moved to Marin the summer before 2nd grade. Aside from going to school at UC Berkeley and an 8-year stint living in San Francisco, I've been a Marin County resident my entire life. I am married to Karen Geer. We were raising our 13-year-old daughter, Carly. I've always been dedicated to helping others and making Marin a better place through the arts, community service, and as an elected and appointed official. I served on the boards of the Mountain Play, the Mill Valley Fall Arts Festival, the Mill Valley Chamber of Commerce, the Mill Valley Historical Society, the Conservation Corps of the North Bay, and I chaired Singers Marin for several years. While serving 8 years on the Mill Valley City Council, was mayor for a year, I was appointed by Governor Davis and reappointed by Governor Schwarzenegger to serve on the municipal government seat of the San Francisco Bay Regional Water Quality Control Board. I was also the regional board's representative on Bay Conservation Development Commission and represented BCDC on the Regional Airport Planning Committee, where I served as chair for 2 years. Today I'm an active member of the Bay Area Council, involved with their transportation, housing, water, and water transit committees. I read the paper version of the Marin IJ every day and enjoy following current events in our county. I admire LAFCo's special mission to regulate and plan the orderly, responsive formation and expansion of local government agencies and their municipal service areas based upon local conditions and circumstances. Yes, LAFCo does have the power and force of law, Yet to be most effective, people who serve on LAFCO should be collaborative, consensus building, and creative conveners amongst willing parties. It'd be an honor to serve as the public member of LAFCO. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Waldeck. Any questions from the commission for Mr. Waldeck? Any questions from the alternates for Mr. Waldeck? Okay. All right. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment and bring it back for a deliberation. We want to start on the deliberation. Yeah? Maybe one-
there-
go ahead.
sorry.
Go ahead, Vice Chair Murray.
We may have discussed this last time. Is there a description of the public member and what their expectations are? I think, our last serving public member was our chair, and he, as I understood, worked with BCDC and was very comfortable at government levels and dealing with things, and served very capably for Marin County. You kind of set that path, and maybe perhaps we're a little comfortable since our prior chair and public member served for so long, but it really may help to discuss what the need is or expectation of the public member, and if there is anything written or described that perhaps our executive officer can discuss.
Sure. There are two basic things based on state government code that are required. The person must be a resident of Marin County, and they can't work for or be a board member of any of our jurisdictions that make up LAFCO. So they can't be a member, they can't be staff of the county, they can't be staff of any of the cities or any of the special districts or any of the towns. That is all that state government code says is required to be a member of LAFCO. So after that, it is completely up to the board as to what it wants to do. Our bylaws or our policy handbook don't really go any further than that either. Our policy handbook did say that you needed to be a registered voter. That is something that I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that Mal and I both agree is not legally allowed for us to say, because the state government code says you only have to be a resident, not a registered voter. So outside of that, it is completely up to you to pick who you want to fill that seat at that point.
Any further questions for staff on that? Okay, does anyone want to make a motion?
I mean, and again,
The green arrow.
boom. There's a green arrow there, even. Got it. I think we're fortunate to have strong candidates, and certainly appreciate alternate Commissioner Skelton's service. Basically, I'm going to renew my motion just to kick it off from last time of nominating Cliff Waldeck, primarily because I think the different levels he has served at, combined with being a public member in the truest sense of someone who's active in the community, well-versed in public affairs, but on top of that, the city council experience, the regional agency experience. I think even on the water quality district, you were even in a leadership position. There you go. So I think just on balance, that's kind of where I'm starting from, but obviously would love to hear other thoughts. So I would move that.
Is there a second for that motion?
Can I ask it, we'll leave the table for a minute now. Can I ask a question? Maybe I need to make a motion to reopen the ability to ask candidates something. So can I ask for that leeway?
Yeah, I think if we don't have a second, you can. Right. Well, I think we're
No,
we're pausing there. We don't have a
Can we
second
do
yet.
that? Do you mind just holding on it for a minute? Can you, would you mind reopening? Can I ask that we reopen it briefly?
Yeah.
Chris, just briefly or selfishly, I'd like to keep your voice on the council, but I'd like to keep it as an alternate. And if you're not elected to the full-time regular position, will you continue to be an alternate?
my understanding is that appointed as an alternate for a 4-year cycle.
And you see, I saw in the meeting, it was supposed to be an extra 2 years, which, although it seems like a long time, goes quicker than you may think.
It absolutely does. And the prior 2 years have flown by, most certainly. I've enjoyed my experience on LAFCo. I certainly had a great time going down to the Cal LAFCO workshop in San Diego, getting to know other surrounding LAFCOs. I personally lobbied a lot of the neighboring counties to vote for me for a leadership position on Cal LAFCO. Unfortunately, it didn't work out this time, but we collectively, Marin LAFCO, were able to renew some of our friendships and allegiances and alliances with surrounding LAFCOs that make up the coastal region through those efforts. I can't answer. I don't know what the future holds, so I can't say with certainty that I would renew as the alternate. I hope that you guys can see that I would like this position, and I've put into the time and the effort on a consistent basis to demonstrate my dedication to the commission. So I would like an opportunity to serve as the full-time public member.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, that was it. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay.
So I will second the motion, but I'd like to make a comment, which is that I want to let you know, Chris in particular, how much I appreciate hearing your comments at the different meetings and how excellent the presentations are that you make, because I think you present them with the very best sort of advocacy, which is you're prepared and you're to the point, both of which I like. Nevertheless, I think that Cliff brings an experience which is frankly unique. And the voice that he brings is also one which I would like to have as well. My experience is that although you're an alternate, you sit as regularly as almost anybody here. So selfishly, I think it's good for LAFCO to keep you in the mix. Not only you, but you never know who else is going to be leaving here in the immediate or not so immediate future. So I will second the motion and see if we can't bring this thing to a close and move on.
Okay.
So,
Yes.
just a question for Cliff.
Oh, all right, okay.
Yeah. Okay, so,
So we do have a motion.
yeah, so discuss it.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So, Cliff, can you?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. When did you serve as alternate and for how long?
I served as alternate for a couple of years in 2003 to 2005. And that was the days when the alternates, I never actually sat in your seat, the alternates were in the audience there. And I stopped being an alternate because my term on the Mill Valley City Council had ended there. So I kind of dipped my foot in, but never dove into LAFCO.
Okay. And then BCDC, your years of experience there?
That was, I was elected to the Mill Valley City Council in '97. And then I got appointed to Regional Water Board and BCDC in 1999 and served all those till 2007.
Okay. And then have you ever worked for a county or a special district or any direct experience?
No,
Special district.
I mean, I've helped on campaigns for MMWD things and things like that, but no, I have not been an employee or worked for a special district.
Maybe I could rephrase it. Have you had any experience related to cities and counties, counties and special districts? Sounds like you were a mayor and council member for Mill Valley, so you're...
Marin County, yeah, with the Regional Water Quality Control Board, that particular district, as you know, encompasses every county that drains into the San Francisco Bay. And I especially prided myself in helping League of California cities understand the new storm water regulations coming in, because you go to a regional board conference where they'd be talking about it, but the cities wouldn't know about it. Because the thing about being a regulator, I was never a thou shalt type of person. I always want to give people the heads up of what's going on and collaborate and bring people together.
So not a prescriptive type of approach.
It just doesn't work, because you got to put yourself in, if you're a small district and you don't have the staff to, do the TMDLs or whatever need to be done, you kind of work with them to find partners or other sort of programs that can help them meet their goals. So I think once you get the lawyers involved, it just gets messy, so.
Cliff, anything else you want to add in regards to work experiences here in Marin County relating to county forms of government and special districts? We're not talking school districts, that they're not in the purview of LAFCo, or possibly these other agencies aren't necessarily purview of LAFCO.
Well, I'm aware of a lot more of the special districts now from the regional water board experience and all the sewage treatment plants, and I'm very proud of the work that my wife does as well, because she works with the Resource Conservation District and does a lot of work with HALT, which I know is not a district, but I mean this whole thing about dairy and all the stuff that goes on in the western veranda there. I don't, I've never served on a special district because being in the city of Hill Valley hasn't afforded me the opportunity, but from a longish following it, write a letter of support type of person, I find myself very involved with special districts. And, one of the other things, was the consolidation of the sewage districts in southern Marin County. I mean, the people who postulated about it, and, LAFCo did a report on it saying, hey, wouldn't it be nice if they all got it together with one general manager and all that? And the political will amongst those agencies at this point is not there. But the other important point is that they are consolidated. They share roto-rooter purposes. They do a lot of stuff where they work a lot together. So there's ways in which consolidation is being done without being consolidated. That said, you see a lot of these fire agencies and police agencies willingly merge for the betterment of the community there. So I'm fascinated by the whole subject.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm just going to make a comment. I don't have any questions. First comment is that I hope this commission makes a decision tonight and doesn't prolong it any longer. The other comment I wanted to make was that I think all three are very qualified, And when I do my checkoffs, I mentioned that equity was one of them. Well, I don't have that choice tonight, but one of the other checkoffs really is geographical balance. And that's where I would give Cliff the edge, because looking at the balance of this commission, we seem to be heavy Central and North Marin if we don't choose another Southern Mariner to replace Jeff, who was a Southern Mariner. So I'd be happy to support Cliff at this first round.
Any further deliberation before we vote? Okay. All in favor of the motion?
And if you need to roll call.
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry, roll call. All right, Candace, go ahead.
Has it been seconded?
Yes, it has. Aye.
Sashi McEntee,
Aye.
Craig K. Murray,
Nay.
Sloan Bailey,
Yes?
Jack Baker,
No.
Damon Conley,
Aye.
Dennis Rodoni,
Aye.
The motion fails because it doesn't have a special district voting for it.
Okay. Yeah. So does anyone want to make another motion? Or any further discussion before we would do such a thing?
Further discussion. So, it's a little difficult because we don't have a clear understanding of what the special district member function is here for Marin LAFCo.
I'm sorry, not the special district function, the public.
I'm sorry, public members function here in LAFCO. So I asked Cliff, and I probably should have asked Chris as well, but I think Chris has been here most recently as an alternate and is a little closer to where we are going with things in LAFCO. And as he did mention, he performed well for Marin at the state level, for a state level position that reflected on all of us very well. So I've seen Chris perform at different levels, so I agree with Sloan's comment. Chris is quite capable, but I look at experience, particularly here in Marin County, and what the public member brings. And Cliff is very strong, and very aware, and certainly have city experience, and I think geographically is a good location as well, bringing that. But I still think someone who's balanced in terms of personal experiences and things that they could bring, county. I look at candidate Loader, and he's served at a high level, not only staff, but also elected board member levels, very high positions, serving Marin County. Marin County for 10 years, and City of Richmond, which is a charter city. And he was city manager and also public works director.
He was city manager?
He was the interim until they took about a year,
Okay.
until they, I don't know if you know Richmond, until they work things through and find the right person. Sorry.
And then, if I could, Las Colinas is 10 years as a board member. He also worked with other agencies like MMWD, where there's some very difficult negotiations in terms of one of the largest water recycling areas, and certainly for Marin County. So he helped get our plant set up, and we're now incorporating all of MMWD's tasks within that special district. And then as a resident, certainly he was in North Santa Fe, and now he's in Central Santa Fe, but he's I understand you're both employed, which I'm not saying anything wrong about being employed, and I think that's a good thing, but he is a senior, and I think it does reflect our population here in Marin County, and he has a wealth of experience. He's a 40-year resident and has, I think, also very many connections and folks that he's worked through the years. So I see him as a very strong candidate. It's unfortunate that he was not here tonight, and I really still feel that he would be our best candidate based on just in those areas as a public serving member.
Well, sorry. With that, is it appropriate? I would nominate Larry Loader.
So, yeah, you're making go ahead and make a
Yes,
motion?
making a motion, yes.
Okay, is there a second to the motion?
I'll say.
Okay. Moved by Commissioner Baker and seconded by Commissioner Murray. All right, deliberations, further deliberations? All right,
Well, let me just comment again, it's sorry because we
Mike.
all, sorry about that. That he couldn't be here tonight. If he'd gotten a notice, I think he would have been here. Well, he didn't get, he should, maybe he wasn't, you came, I'm not sure if you were here, but he was here for the last meeting as you were, and maybe he wasn't listening well enough, but it didn't register with him that the meeting would be carried over to tonight. Oh,
All I know is that I tried to reach out to both of you, and neither one of you gave me the courtesy of a response. And I just think that that's something that a public
I got your
person on
letter.
board should do.
okay, yeah, thank you.
I don't know what you mean by that, but, anyway, he's not here. I think he didn't, he was here the last time and tried, gave it his best. And I think everybody's got his memo here, kind of re-expressing his background and his interest, including the interim city manager, Richmond, not a regular full-time. So I think he's still in play, although he's certainly handicapped because he's not sitting here with you two gentlemen.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I mean, before we vote,
Is it on? Yeah.
yes, before we vote, I wouldn't mind any comments Sashi or Dennis or Dan might have, but I understand, I think, Chris and Cliff, like, I get it. But I didn't hear a lot of comments. Would you have any comments about Larry or?
I mean, this is kind of playing out like last time where I think, I'm trying to remember, I believe Dennis as well on the side as a compromise candidate, again, going back to, I think all three are strong in their own ways. Obviously in terms of professional background, Larry has applicable experience. I think at this point I probably would again be comfortable if that is a compromise setting to do that again.
Yeah, just, I would be comfortable to support Larry, but I want the commission to know that then there will be 4 of us that have special district backgrounds on this commission, actual commission, because I spent 21 years and 14 of them on LAFCO, a special district. So
Yeah.
I just want the commission aware. I don't saying there's something wrong with it,
Yeah.
but 4
I
of
think
us
that's
will
an
have
important
special district
consideration.
connections, so.
I just wanted to address Mr. Waldeck's comment. He did make a phone call into me on my voicemail, and I thought it was best not to do that on-site conversations, but here, a public meeting. That's why I asked Mr. Waldeck to come forward and ask very specific and direct questions so all of us could see that exchange. And that's the response to his comment.
Thank you, Vice Chair Murray. That's good to hear. Personally, I agree that we have 3 very strong candidates. The rule is that you must get 1 vote from each category, and it's been very clear from the special district members that your preferences are for a candidate with some special district background. And I think to Dennis's point, we have a lot of special district on this board, and having a public member that doesn't have a special district background, I think, is not a detriment. I think that brings us a little diversity of opinion. So I would not be in support of Mr. Loader's candidacy, although I think he's eminently qualified. I think his background is terrific. I think that the balance is not as preferable.
Just to follow up to that, I think we covered this last meeting as well. One, I think generally what we've done is those that have served as alternates are ready for a full position. I believe certainly Chris is available to do that and has an interest in a strong learning curve in doing that. I hear Sashi to, I'm not sure Mr. Loader's perspective as serving an alternate. Again, perhaps he's
Why don't we take a vote? There's actually a motion and a second, so it's just vote on it.
all right.
All right. Candace, will you go ahead and do the roll call?
Sashi McEntee,
No.
Craig K. Murray,
Yes.
Sloan Bailey,
Yes.
Jack Baker,
Yes.
Damon Conley,
Aye.
Dennis Rodoni.
Aye.
All right. So we have a winner.
Larry Loader.
All right.
Yep, so he will be seated at the next meeting, which is custom to how these things work.
Well, thank you very much to the two candidates for coming twice. I really appreciate you showing up both times. We will welcome Mr. Loader as our new public member. All right. Okay, so we will move to let Chris come back and then.
Thank you. All right, Craig, Jack,
Thanks.
thank you.
Thanks, Cliff. Thanks, Chris.
Consideration. Bye-bye.
Okay. Executive Officer Freed, would you
Sure.
talk us through item number 4, please?
So the next item on the agenda is the contract with Marin LAFCo. They provide our IT services. I'm going to break this discussion into two completely different parts because we're actually dealing with something that we deal with them now on, and then I want to expand their services to something a little bit more than what they do now. So the first part is they provide our IT services. The contract that we've had with them, the current contract that we have has this top line, if you look at the screen here, for IT services at $595. That's all our current contract says. However, historically, we have actually been paying them for our Office 365 email. It's actually technically something different. They're going to switch us over should we continue the contract with them to this same thing, same basic price. It's just a better email system that with updates than what we currently have. We've also been using them for antivirus and cloud backup, but none of those were ever in the contract in the past. So this contract will be rectifying that. As we were going through the year, I was realizing, wait, you're sending us bills for things that aren't in the contract. That's not really appropriate. But historically, we had been using them, which I wasn't aware of when we did when I did their last contract, because I had just started and hadn't seen all these things yet. So this contract actually puts us up to pace with what we've been using them for historically and paying for them historically. None of those prices are changing. They're all the same exact price we pay today, same exact price we're going to pay for the new contract. This will be a 3-year contract, so we'll actually be locking in these prices for 3 years, which I think is very good. The one thing I'm adding on the what I call on the IT side is the email archiving. Later in the agenda, we're going to be having a discussion about retention policy. We really don't have a good system for email archiving. Right now, when a staff person leaves, when their email gets turned off, all their emails go away. That's not smart and safe for us to be doing. If we ever had a lawsuit or something, we may need to go back to some old emails and be able to pull them up. This email archiving system will give us the ability to do that type of thing. So I am requesting, and this is, they have it, you'll see the double dots on that. This is an optional thing. We don't have to do it, but I would be encouraging us to actually be paying for the extra service of the email archiving. It'll be a lot easier for us should we ever need to go back and recall emails up. It will work well with our retention policy that will be coming up later in the agenda. So that's just something I'm adding on there. One thing I do want to note is the $595, that's a monthly service fee. We currently use them for somewhere between 6 to 10 hours a month on average. The 10 hours a month is really for like when Jaron started and Vita left and Candace started. We really don't tend to use them that much. It was more of a one-off type thing in those types of months. The 6 hours is a more traditional. They do a lot of they're making sure our system is always updated and always secure, that we're getting the latest patches put in as soon as they need to be put in. They do a lot of this stuff actually in the background when I don't even see them doing it. It's all done, a lot of it's done remotely. They're also making sure our server is up and running and that it's in good shape and constantly testing it out to make sure that they catch issues before I catch issues. So they spend about 6 hours a month on that. If we didn't have a monthly service fee, we could go to an hourly rate system with them where we call them up and they fix something up as we request it. Probably wouldn't be doing patches and updates as often, so we would have a little more vulnerable system. That's $165 an hour is what they charge if we were not to be in the monthly system. Not to say we couldn't necessarily go and find someone a little bit cheaper than that, but remember we're using Max. there's not as many people out there who do the Mac support stuff as there are who do PCs. So your rates are a little bit higher than you would see with a traditional PC system. So that is my recommendation on the computer side of it. The other side of it, as you've all been aware, I've complained a few times in this meeting and outside of this meeting about our phone system being a home phone system, not an office phone system. When you call the main line, if you want to talk to me, I get on a wireless phone and I tie up the main phone line. No one else can call into LAFCo and talk to anyone else on staff at that point. And that's just not a good professional office system, especially now that we're going to 3 staff. It's going to become even more of a crunch on that main line when people are calling to find one of us and someone else calls trying to find someone else. They're going to go straight to voicemail. We looked at a few different options of how to change our phone system up. The best option, everyone that we talked with, I talked with Comcast, I talked with Marin LAFCo, and I talked with a group called 8x8 who does MGSA, I believe. Is that? Yeah, who does MGSA, their phone system. And a few other folks as well, to say what options do you have out there. All of them encouraged us to go with what's referred to as a VoIP system, a voice over IP system. And Marin LAFCo actually came in my opinion, at the cheapest cost. 8x8, they are technically cheaper on paper, but theirs comes with no support. If there's an issue with the system, we call them up, they send a tech out, and we're paying by the hour as soon as they show up at our door, where our $5.95 monthly fee will actually cover our phone IT as well. So we've got all of that in the system. Marin LAFCo is actually cheaper than if we went with Comcast. We switched to their VoIP system. It came out a little bit cheaper than them. So my opinion is we should go with what's a good price and a company that we know that we rely on for our IT services. So with this contract, we would be adding in 4 phone lines. The one issue that we do have is our contract with Comcast right now does not expire until August. So the question that would be in front of the commission on this is, if we wanted to use Marin LAFCo, it would be my encouragement that we would start using them immediately. It would take them a few weeks to get the phones online and everything installed, but that we start using them and that we would, for all intents and purposes, be paying for 4 months of 2 different phone systems, one of which we're using, and the Comcast one, which we would have abandoned. And when that contract expired, we would end the contract for the phone system, our current phone system with Comcast, and just use Comcast purely for the internet providing services that they provide us right now. So we're not going to get rid of Comcast altogether. It's just going to be for the internet providing services. Because we have phones with them now, there's a bundle system. We would lose that bundle system. So our services that we pay just for the the internet providing side would go up a little bit because we can't bundle anymore. And they're always running deals and specials, so it's not quite clear exactly how much we would pay in August. Really depends on what type of deal or special is up at that point in time and what type of deal I can negotiate with them. But it would still, even at the high end, would still come out cheaper using Marin LAFCo phones, Comcast web.
Any questions from the commission?
So Jason, one of the important things in a contract is who the person is assigned to that contract. I see Travis Woods. So is this a person you're dealing with now for IT support and other things? And this is the expectation, is that?
Yes, Travis is the owner of the company, and he's the one that does most of the work, although he occasionally will send out one of his other staff to take care of an individual item. But Travis is the one that we will be dealing with, and we'll assign. If he's not available and someone else, it's an easy project, he'll send someone else on staff. And all of his staff, for the most part, have been extremely good and professional when they've come into the office or done things remotely for us.
Jason, does that $595 include like software licenses or something like that? It just seems like a lot.
No, that
Monthly.
it doesn't. I'm not aware that it has any licensing side of stuff. It is.
When you say patches, what patches for what? Like OS patches? Because
they monitor there are OS patches that are coming out. Some of which they will tell me do not update this one just yet because there's still bugs in it. So they're monitoring like that type of a system and saying, wait, hold off on doing this patch. And they actually will normally. I don't actually ever update my computer. They will come in at night and they will say, hey, leave your computers on tonight, and we will leave our computers on. They'll then do all the stuff remotely and just take care of all the updates for us. So I don't have to worry about, is this patch buggy or not? They know when it's buggy or not. So they take care of a lot of that type of stuff. They also are testing the system just to make sure there's no vulnerabilities in it. They're doing things on the side, but I don't believe any of our licensing is through them.
So they can log into your computers remotely? That
Yes.
seems a little,
I mean, if my computer's on, I will be there, and it pops up, and I see that they're actually in my computer. They tell me that they're doing it remotely. They have access to our whole server. I mean, they're our IT folks, so they have access to everything that I have access to on the server.
okay. And you said that there's just, we've had a lot of changes recently, but we're expecting to kind of be more stable, wouldn't you? And you are expecting not to need to use them as much, wouldn't?
We still would have 6 hours of use of them. Even our months where we weren't having any of these changes occur, we were still using them 6 hours a month to monitor and fix little things that are going on in the system.
Okay.
Unfortunately, computers are much more complicated than I care to ever get into, and we probably could, maybe some of those 6 hours wouldn't be needed if we didn't have them doing this service, but that means our computers, when we needed something done, a lot more work would need to be done all at once.
Okay. Yeah, it just seems like a,
Yeah, that's
seems like a lot to me.
Yeah, that 595 is what we currently have in the
Yeah.
contract, and they're not, I was actually expecting them to increase it this year, because it's been the same number for a couple of years now.
Yeah, I don't have any issue with the phones,
yeah.
that seems fine, but I'm still not 100% clear on what $600 a month buys us as far as support.
It makes sure that like I said, they're doing 6 hours worth of work, even in the slow months. They're coming in and making sure our system is up to date, that it's serving correctly, that if there's ever an issue, and every month there's something pops up where all of a sudden some gibberish starts showing up on the computer. Candace has had an issue or two with our calendaring system. They will come in and they figure out how to fix it for us, so we don't have to spend the time to do it. They really do work for us every single month. There's always something popping up. And I prefer to have the monthly than have to. The other thing with the monthly services, if we call them, we're at the beginning of the queue, where if we're on the hourly, they take care of all their monthly people subscriptions before they take care of anyone who's on their hourly contract.
Craig?
I'm just curious, you've said a couple times they're coming in, but then I thought you also said they do it remotely. Which is it?
It depends on what it is. Sometimes they come in, sometimes it's remotely. It really depends on the individual issue. Sometimes they can fix things. They can log into our computer. Like, we'll call them up, or we'll put in a ticket to call us and say, hey, can I look at your computer for a minute? If they can fix it that way, they do. Sometimes it's something that they can't do remotely. They will then send someone down to the office, and they will sit there on the computer and figure it out.
Does that happen often? Do they come in physically? That surprises me.
I would say it ebbs and flows. Most of the stuff they can do is remotely, but they do occasionally, like when we were setting up, I mean, granted it's not a regular thing, but like when we were setting up Jaren's system, they came in and really wiped the whole computer down and did a whole bunch of work to make sure it was clean and ready for him to go. That had to be done in person.
Okay, thank you.
Craig?
So one of the things our interim executive brought to us, Jason, before you arrived, was iPads for all the commissioners. We basically were going to a paperless system that was cost-effective, green, and very helpful for staff as well. But I think what would be good, perhaps in this contract, is some sort of training in terms of support of iPads and maybe a preferred way of storing materials and operating within the iPad system. So if that's possible, I make that suggestion, maybe you could work with Mr. Woods.
He's actually come here before. I know we were trying to figure out how to use our server instead of Dropbox. And I know that Sashi was having some issues, so we were using Sashi as a guinea pig. He was more than happy to come down to a meeting, and he did that. So if we want to do a training, I'm sure he would be happy to come down and do a training, either in a commission meeting or one-on-one with an individual, if that's whatever the case needed to be.
Great, perfect, thank you.
And he's been fairly responsive to you. I asked you some questions today, and he responded to you by text, right? So I think he's been pretty responsive.
Yeah, no, he's very, that operation is very responsive. They will get back to you the same day. They may not be able to fix the problem the same day, but they will always get back to you the same day and say, here's what we figured out, and it might take us a couple days to do something. So they are extremely responsive. That's one of the reasons why I'm comfortable having a 3-year contract rather than just a 1-year contract with them, because it would lock in our price, which is good, but it also gives us, I'm very comfortable with the work they do.
And how long do we have on these computers before we need to kind of get new computers? Is it more or less than 3 years?
Generally computers are replaced every 3 to 5 years. I tend to use computers longer than their general uses, just because I don't need to have the latest, greatest thing on my computer.
Just wondering if we're going to be replacing computers within that window, and you might want to go back to PC, that's a little less expensive to support. would we want to have
We
a
do-
shorter term?
We always do have the contract, by the way, I forgot to mention, they have accepted with some minor edits, which BB&K, we're okay with, the BB&K general contract that they
Standard contract,
provide. So
yep.
they're using their contract. If you look at the termination clause in there, we actually have the right to terminate it. It's either 10 days or 30 days, I think, I forget what the clause is. So if we were to switch to PCs and wanted to go to a different provider, we would have the ability to do that just based on our contract right now.
Okay. Any further questions?
A couple quick questions on the phone system. Is it only when you receive an incoming call that the line is tied up, or is it outgoing calls as well tie up the line?
Outgoing calls, anytime, we have 3 different lines in the office, not including the fax, we have 3 different lines. If you're on that line, it is tied up, and if someone calls, it goes straight to voicemail. Now, if you call the main line and someone's on the main line, it goes to the main line's voicemail. If you call my desk and I'm on my desk's number, it goes, oh, sorry, thank you, I thought it was still on. If you call my desk and I'm on the phone with someone else, it goes straight to my voicemail. This new system will actually allow someone else to pick up the call. If it rings anywhere in the office, anyone else in the office will be able to pick it up. It's a more professional office system. And so if you're calling the main number, which is where most people will call and get voicemail if someone's on it, if Candace is on the phone, I can pick up or Jaron can pick up and the call gets answered.
Understand. About how many voicemails do you guys receive a day?
I don't receive that many voicemails to my number. I mean, to be fair, we don't get a lot of calls, but it's mainly just been 2 people as the third person comes on board and we start doing MSRs in-house and stuff like that. I think the call volume will pick up a little bit.
Like, do you get like a voicemail a day, maybe 3 a week? Do you have like an approximate? I mean, someone checks the voicemails.
I mean, my number, I probably maybe get 1 or 2 a week. I don't do the front desk, so Candace, do you know?
Are you wondering how many calls end up going to voicemail because they didn't get picked up?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Do you know how many calls go to, I mean,
Well, just how many voicemails do you get?
That's hard to judge, depends on what's going on in the office. Getting to the phone system, it's really archaic. We need a new phone system.
Yeah.
There's no hold button. I actually have to set the phone down to go get Jason to tell him he has a phone call, and just, it's really bad.
Yeah.
So,
I guess my comment as part of deliberation, I guess, is we've lived with this phone system for I don't even know how long, probably a long time, and 4 months of overlapping charges. If there was a serious demand, like, hey, we're getting 5 or 6 voicemails a day that we're missing calls and we need to have a better communication, I'd be all for it. If it's really just no offense to staff, a matter of convenience, that convenience will certainly come true. We all want to have an appropriate phone system, and I think that this is a logical solution. I'm just wondering about execution and when. Have you talked with MMT, and if you enter into this contract, are you able to effectively bifurcate the phones out and enter into the phones in, let's say, July, so that there's only 1 month of overlap and sort of a transition period as opposed to 4?
I think if we requested that of Travis, he would have no issues with doing it. The phone system is not something he's really making a profit off of. It's just, I had been complaining, and he had been in the room one time when I was complaining about the phone system. He says, hey, I've got a different option for you. So I have no question that if we said, hey, we want to renew the contract, we're just going to hold off on doing the phone system, that they would hold off on doing the phone system until we said so.
Okay. Do we, is there any public comment? Seeing none, close the public comment. Does anyone want to make a motion? Or any further deliberations?
To adopt staff's recommendation to enter into this contract with the one modification that the phones be separated out and that they go into effect July 1st to, reduce the overlap costs between Comcast and MMT for, 1 month as opposed to 4 months.
Do I have a second for that motion?
Sure, second.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Skelton, seconded by Commissioner Bailey. Any discussion on that? Anybody have any preference on whether or not we do the 4-month overlap? No? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. All right. Moving along to adoption of the budget. Jason.
So adoption of the budget. So what we have with the budget, and we've been having this discussion for a few meetings now, is this will be the first budget where we rework, whoopsie, wrong one, where we rework the lines a little bit, squishing stuff up so it's more in a professional manner. The Budget Committee reviewed this and accepted it. There were some minor edits that the chair approved after, based on the Budget Committee, just making sure all of our numbers were working together. Now that we have Jaren on board, we actually know what our staff salaries are. This budget does allow for staff salary increases come next year based on what the outcome is with negotiations with myself, as well as a possible COLA increase for our clerk. I did inform Jaren when, at the beginning that he would not be getting a COLA increase because he's so new that just didn't seem like an appropriate COLA increase to have there. So the budget does allow for that. So there is a little bit of room based on discussions that may occur. Because I always like to come in on the proposed budget on what will be the highest number we would ever ask for. And that way, if things shake out a little bit better or a little bit tighter, we can trim it down come the final budget. I'd rather go that way because this is what we send out to all of the member agencies of LAFCo. And so I want them to see the highest number now and not surprise them and say, oh, we forgot to put COLA increases in, or we forgot to do something that we really wanted to do. This budget allows for us to do whatever we were talking about today and still be within budget at the end of the fiscal year when we start the new fiscal year out. So some of the big picture items is pension is probably the one that's increasing the most. MSERA had a rather large increase this year because they're trying to get caught up on unfunded side of their stuff. So everybody is paying more for pension. It's depending on what tier you're in, Jaren and I are in one type of tier, Candace is in another because she's been around for so long. The one that Jaren and I are in is seeing a 10% increase in what they're asking for contributions from agencies, where Candace is, we pay actually more for Candace, but her increase in and of itself, I believe, was 4 or 5%. It was somewhere in that range. So all of that is incorporated into this. Benefits are all have what we would be paying, what the county tells us we'd be paying for next year. The one item that is kind of there, just to remind folks, is professional services. I anticipate that I know for a fact, and we'll get into the MSR updates later in the budget, in the calendar of items for tonight, is we will not be completed with Plan West partners. So part of the professional services is actually the realization we will not be finished with that, and we will have to pay them for items next year. I don't like doing this thing, and some people will do this where they budget all the money in one year and then they spend some of it the next year. That's why we have a carry forward balance. So the stuff that's not spent this year gets moved to next year's budget and gets spent next year. So the professional services line will all in likelihood change, but that'll change in most part because of based on what's left to pay Plan West for the work that they're potentially going to be doing. And that's why you see the carry forward balance, what it is. But the biggest thing and the biggest objective of the Budget Committee and myself as well was not to have a penny increase in the agency contributions. And we were able to hold the line this year. And that is something I am extremely proud of because remember, we have not been fully staffed since 2015. So we're becoming fully staffed and we're still able to keep the agency contributions at where they were at because we really tightened our belts, looked at what really needs to be done, how do we work as cost effective as possible. And that is the proposed budget that I'm presenting to you today. There is another item around fee schedule that I want to talk about, but I don't want to have that interfere with the budget. So I would like to have any discussion about the budget stuff, and then I'll come back to fee schedule discussion when we're done with that part.
Yes.
So, excuse me if I may, what's before you is proposed budget to approve tonight, which then goes out to the member agencies. Essentially, this is a lean and clean budget. We've changed it to make it simple to understand, we believe. And also thank you to Jason for reconfiguring it so that we could get to this point. And also for him to take the initiative to hold the agency contributions flat. And we're able to do that because we're doing really well this budget year, but because this year is a transition year, we don't know how real that is. So we want to be frugal, but also want to treat our member agencies well, and we think we're doing this with this budget. So I'd be happy to move this at the point that you would like a motion.
And just noting that Dennis was the chair of the Budget Committee. Any other questions for staff? No. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, we'll close the public comment.
Go ahead, sorry.
Sorry, I have one quick question. Did the lease go down?
I'm not sure why the lease number was what it was at. We have a contract, it's a multi-year contract. I went in and said, here's how much we pay every month. I don't know why the number, because our lease is actually gonna go up next year,
Usually
monthly now.
3%.
Yeah, it's going up from what we pay this year, but for some reason, previous years, they put more than what we needed. So I trimmed that down to what we actually, that will be what we
Yeah.
pay.
Maybe that was just
Yeah.
that budget strategy of padding that down. And communication services went up. What's in that?
Communication services is our IT support, and as well as our website also will fall in there. That will, after we're done with tonight, I might jigger with that number slightly because of actions that will be taken. But that was me anticipating a slightly more expensive phone system is really what most of that's going to go towards.
Thank you, Jason and Dennis. Who else was on the committee, by the way? Good luck and God bless. So multiple public entities whose boards I serve on are struggling with long-term pension obligations. Do we have that issue? And what I mean by that is that the accumulated liability looking forward is overwhelming. And so we have been trying to implement strategies in 2 or 3 different entities. I'm thinking police, fire, my town, and some others where to try to pay that down, have a plan to pay it down over a long period of time. I don't know if it's even an issue here or not.
We have one retiree,
Oh, okay.
and then all the employees
So
are
we, like,
fairly
caught up
new.
then?
Yeah. I think we just have.
We will be getting a report on that later this year as to where we're actually at. When they did the report last year for us, we had an outside consultant do it. That was
Kathy McLeod, yeah.
Kathy McLeod did it for us. She not ready yet to do it because it's too early in the cycle to do it, but she's going to be looking at it. And the comment she made to me last year was, we're in good shape when we were there last year. We made a large contribution last year to get our OPEBs in proper place. So I'm waiting to see what she comes up with this year, just to see if we need to do anything else. But it seems like we should be in a pretty good spot, according to her, from last year.
Okay. I mean, I would ask for the specific numbers and everything, but.
I will definitely do that. I didn't have that tonight.
Okay, so I'll second the motion, Dennis, unless you have more comments.
So there's one comment on the lease. We did discuss that in committee. It's a full-service gross lease, so basically the building manager's taking care of the security, the maintenance, that sort. So there's no additional contracts or cost to that. And then also, I think what Jason's alluding to too is this is kind of a true-up year, so we'll see some numbers coming in, but we're all feeling that very comfortable with the budget as it's set.
Okay. Yeah. Why don't we go ahead and have you officially make the?
Oh, I thought you already did.
Did you? Were you officially making it? Okay. All right. So we're moved by Commissioner Rodoni and seconded by Commissioner Bailey. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. So you also had the project list there. Is that separate?
That was just because historically, this when this body approves the budget, they also approve the work plan. Because of how we did our work plan this current cycle that we're in, we did an 18-month work plan, which covers current fiscal year and next fiscal year. So it was more of just an update. Here's where we're at within that work plan.
Yeah, I just wanted to note that you'd had a note in there that I wanted to change a couple of the studies to emergency planning moving forward, and that's not what I wanted. I asked that we consider doing an additional countywide emergency preparedness study.
Oh, in addition to the fire and
Yes.
police. Okay, my
Yes.
apologies. I misunderstood where that was at then.
No problem.
I'll
Just
make
wanted
that
to
change.
clarify that. All right.
So I wanted to, before we go off of budget, I wanted to have a quick discussion about the fee schedule. It's been a few years since we've updated it. We now have new staff on board, so now is a perfect time to update our fee schedule. My goal is to come back to you at the June meeting with a fee schedule and have it go into effect on July 1st. As I've been doing my research into how Keene had set up the fee schedule here, there's kind of 2 different styles that are used. One style is you determine how much is your staff cost, and then you multiply it by somewhere between 10 to 20%, depending on what type of math you want to use for the fee schedule. It's kind of what I call the simple way of doing it. The The way Keen set it up is it's a very complex formula. I'm not going to get into all the complexities of it. I have the formula. I can redo the formula if that's what we want to go with. But some of the questions I have in it is that formula, what it does is it looks at both staff salaries, benefits, which are 2 plugins, and then it has this third plugin and even a kind of a fourth plugin as well, which is it takes all of our other costs, our lease, our legal services, our conference fees, and says we're going to add all that up together and divide it by 2,080, which is a full year's worth of work. If you were a thing, that creates an hourly rate for how much all these other costs are. We throw that into the formula. So we say, and I don't remember what the exact number is, but every application they averaged out said it takes about X number of hours. So you take the hourly rate, you take all the other fees rates and throw that in and say, this is how much we're charging for a fee. And that's our current system. And then in addition to that, there is a 20% increase on that number to help pay off MSRs. It's, I think, a little burdensome for applicants. I don't think it is fair to the applicant. I want to make sure we're fair to all of our jurisdictions, that we're collecting correct monies from them. I think that formula goes a little bit farther than it should. I don't understand why we would be charging a 20% MSR fee if we've already been charging for all of our professional services, legal services, staff time, because guess what? That's what creates our MSRs. So that part didn't make sense to me, why we would have that extra bit in there. I don't know if some of the commissioners who have been here for around longer than I have had some thoughts on that, if we want to keep that formula, change it.
Mala, can we talk about this as part of this item, or it seems like we're going a little off the item?
It impacts budget.
It impacts budget, but the philosophy on the fee schedule.
Right, I think we should agendize it. And,
Okay.
and based off of what you're telling me, I do have some concerns about maybe how the fees were structured.
Okay.
So maybe the two of us can get
All right.
together and bring back a proposal.
We'll come back to you in June with a better fee structure.
Okay, very good. All right, Jason, item 6, Legislative Committee.
Sure. In front of you is a long list of new legislation that has come up that Cal LAFCo is watching or taking a position on. The Legislative Committee, I don't know if Commissioner Baker, if you would like to make some comments first. Okay. Thank you. So there are 20 bills that are on their docket right now that they're watching or taking a position on. 2 of them we've already taken a position on. One of them they actually switched positions. You might remember we took an align with Cal LAFCo position. So our position automatically switched with it as well, which is great because that's exactly how the process is supposed to work. We don't have to come back here and have the discussion every single time every single bill occurs. So of those 20 bills, 18 of them are new. 16 of them we took an align with Cal LAFCo position. 2 of them the committee took a support position on. And the reason we didn't do an align with Cal LAFCo is because Cal LAFCo is the sponsor. We're not the sponsor of the bill. It doesn't make sense for us to be a sponsor. We can't really take that position because we're not the sponsor. So we took a support position because that aligns us with what Cal LAFCo is and wants. Of those 2 bills, one of them is what I refer to is referred to as the omnibus bill. It's basically a cleanup of CKH, Cortese-Hertox-Knox Act, for those that don't like initials. That we are doing, that's this cleanup language. It's never anything controversial in it. Nothing controversial ever gets put in it. It's really just someone realized, oh, this government code changed over here and we refer to it. Now we need to change our law referring to this other bill that got changed so it's properly referred. It's really mundane stuff like that that's in that bill. Nothing exciting ever goes in there. The other bill is dealing with allowing for grants to be given to LAFCOs can apply for grants for certain situations where disadvantaged, unincorporated communities are impacted and there's potentially a consolidation or we want to study it. We would have the ability to apply for a grant to help cover the costs. And I wasn't aware of this until the Legislative Committee meeting, but one of our commissioners made me aware that there is actually one of our districts, special districts, actually has some unincorporated disadvantaged community within it. And so if we ever wanted to do a study around them, we could go apply for this grant and be able to get it. This grant got all the way to the governor's desk last year and Governor Brown vetoed it. We're hoping this time to, or at least Cal LAFCO is hoping this time to get it back to the governor's desk. And with a new governor, perhaps we'll be able to get the grant money available to LAFCOs when they're needed. So I think it's actually a great bill for us. It could potentially very much help us out on that. So those are the bills in front of you. If you have any questions on individual ones, I'm happy to try and do my best to answer them. But I haven't really studied all the other bills yet because there's just a lot of them and they're not as relevant to us.
Any comments from committee chair? Okay. Commissioner Marin?
So just on the last comment, Jason, so Marin County Grand Jury is saying that LAFCo needs additional funds to go forward with some of the goals, to take place, studies and work effort. I realize the condition of LAFCO over the last few years and where we are now. So it seems like it might be a good time for that. So besides the state level legislation, is there any effort locally to look for additional funds for special studies and this sort? At state level, they did talk about in Cal LAFCO meeting conferences. I think we attended with Sashi, and then prior to that, Chris Skelton attended in San Diego. So it's a kind of this consistent thing that LAFCOs are underfunded. There's important things that need to be studied and go forward. State recognizes it. They're wanting to provide funding, but now it sounds like it's going to be very limited here in Marin, just ducks and perhaps one example. And then Marin County Grand Jury is also saying Marin LAFCO should receive additional funding to take care of some high priority items. So I didn't know if you had any comments in regards to that.
I'm not aware of any other state legislation that would be with that. The other part of your discussion is there's other money available for us to look for? If I ever hear of stuff, I would absolutely do it. There was, Cal LAFCO made aware that there is a resource open space to the West Marin. I'm drawing a blank on their name all of a sudden. The resource district that's out there. Conservation district, thank you. That there's money that they could apply for, that we also have the ability to apply for. I've actually been in contact with that district. What that grant money is actually available for isn't something they're currently working on or doing. But if they ever did, we would work with them to apply for that type of a grant. But there's no other grants I'm currently aware of. But if any ever came up, I'd love grabbing grant money because it gives us a little extra money to use for other things.
All right. Do I have anyone want to make a motion? Oh, sorry. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, we'll close the public comment. Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt staff's recommendation number 1.
Okay. Second?
I'll second.
Which one of you wants it? Okay. Moved by Commissioner Skelton and seconded by Commissioner Rodoni. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Thank you very much for the Legislative Committee. Item 7, please, Jason.
Sure. Item 7 is the Public Technology Information Committee. Does the chair of that committee want to say anything before I get into the item?
I would just say that the committee and I specifically fully support what you're presenting here, and that there's a stronger case to be made even than you put into your report. So I will let you discuss it after that.
Sure. We have item number 7 is, as we've discussed in the past, our website provider right now isn't necessarily providing the services we would want, and it's not at a good, efficient cost. We went out based on the commission's approval. It gave the committee the authority to put out a RFQ and go through the whole RFQ process and bring back a recommendation. And that is what you have in front of you today is the committee's recommendation of what we should be doing for website services. To try and keep it as short and sweet as possible. This will be currently, if we do nothing right now, we will stay with Civics Plus because they are our website provider. We will pay about $5,000 a year, and that goes up every year. And that contract ends in August. We've already paid for the year's services, so there's no paying overlap if we do something now. It's just a matter of trying to get a better website up. Some of you have actually noticed issues with our current website. I know the chair noticed an issue where she was trying to find the agenda and she ran into the same problem Chris did, clicked on the wrong thing and you get sent down the wrong rabbit hole and you can never find the agenda. This new system, you won't have that problem. It'll be much easier when you click on the place where you think you're getting the agenda, you will actually find the agenda every time. So the current purveyor is someone who does other LAFCOs as well as small special districts. That's actually what they specialize in. They don't do big fancy websites, and I will just be blunt about that. Our website's not going to be a big fancy website like we currently have. We stripped out all the bells and whistles, and we have a very basic structure in place. They have a payment structure where for a one-time fee of $3,000, they will help us transfer the information that's on our current website and create a new backbone for a new website. After that, There will be a lot of work, and I will be blunt about this. There will be work needed on staff level. Candace will be taking the lead on that work of making sure everything that we want's up on the new website. And so it is a much lower cost website. So that's $3,000 helps us get the basic stuff set up. And then after that, they actually have a fee schedule that's monthly that is based purely on what your budget is. So we have a budget that is $600,000. Their parameters are $500,000 to $1 million, pays $100 a month. That's all we pay every month. So our annual fee will be $1,200 a month for the basic service in and of itself.
1,200 a year.
$1,200 a year, I'm sorry, yes, thank you. It's been a long day for me. I was in San Jose at the Cal LAFCo conference, so it's been a little bit long for me with a lot of driving. Yeah, so it's $1,200 a year compared to the $5,000 a year that we pay Civics Plus. So in year one, we will actually be cheaper than Civics Plus, even with the transferring of all the other stuff. So this is both, I believe, getting us a website that we want and deserve and need, which is a basic, simple, let's get people the information they want, get rid of the flashy stuff, all the bells and whistles are gone. One of the things that they focus a lot on California special districts, so they know what all of the California regulations are, and that's all we have to comply with. Civics Plus requires us to comply with regulations in all 50 states because they basically represent people in all 50 states. And they have a nice little dashboard that tells you, you loaded everything correctly, you're compliant on everything. It gives you a little thing, and if you're not, it tells you this is not compliant. We don't have that with what we currently have.
Great. Any questions from the commission? Okay.
So Jason, Streamline seems very effective, and when we're at Cal LAFCo conference, they did present there and spoke to quite a few folks. So I think they come with, as you fully detailed, all the background and relevant groups that they're working at this level, at the LAFCO level. Just in comparison to other LAFCOs, some use county systems as hosts. Did the committee, maybe the committee members or yourself, you could reflect on, did you look at alternative ways of hosting a website and have platforms in terms of what we
did not look at the county. I don't think the county, We did not look at the county, and I don't believe the county is willing to host people at this point. They are trying to shed themselves of some of those things, and so the county is not an option for us.
Is there any public comment? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment. Does anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to,
I'm sorry, there's one more quick thing, just so you're aware. In there is a $10 a month fee for helping host a website. Travis at Marin MacTech thinks there might be a cheaper, more effective cost way for us to do it. So in there you will see that there is actually $110 a month. I put that so it's at the high end of what we might need, but we may not use that final $10 a month. We might use a different system that is simpler and easier for what our needs are. Once all this stuff gets put in place, Sloan is well aware of this and is like, it's an optional thing. If we don't want to use it, she's fine with that. And they are also using our standard contract, no edits.
Okay. Yeah,
Did you say Sloan?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I did say Sloan. Sorry, I was looking at you, Sloan. But it is actually, yeah, no.
That's her name.
Oh, that's her name. Yes, it is Sloan. I was right on that.
Excellent name.
Yes.
It's an excellent name. And on that basis alone, right now, so we have a motion by Commissioner Skelton,
I'll second.
a second by Commissioner Murray. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion passes. Jason, I know that the Marin Telecommunications Agency is also currently looking for website help, and they are eagerly looking to get rid of Civic Plus as well. I would just encourage you to work with Marin Telecommunications Agency and Marin GSA and see whether the three small agencies can maybe do some sharing of information and resources. I think would be helpful for everybody.
Yeah, happy to share that with them.
All right, sounds good. All right, moving on to the policy handbook, item 8.
So the policy handbook is something that was presented to you last month. There were some very minor changes and edits in it, so it's in front of you today. The one thing I wanted to remind folks is at the last meeting, the chair had requested that if anyone had any big picture discussions that they wanted the policy committee to have around sections 4 and 5, which are the crux of the policies that we actually follow. Most of the stuff is like internal stuff. This is like big picture, how how does LAFCo approach annexations and all those types of things. Sections 4 and 5 are those areas. So if you have comments and things that you would like to see us change, now is a good time to bring it to us because it's open session. We can have the discussion here. The policy committee can then take those items and do their thing. I will note there are 2 areas that I know we're definitely going to come back to you on with changes with the policy handbook. One is how special district elections are held, and the other is the public seats, when those get appointed. Since we're in the middle of those processes when we were doing this, the policy committee asked I asked the policy committee, we shouldn't change those items because you're in the middle of the process. It would be kind of odd and funky to change them, but we want to do a best practices now that public seat is now over and as you'll learn later, the special district elections will be occurring later this month. We will be coming back to you in the future with some edits to those to figure out what is the best practices. How do we maybe change something up to make it a little bit easier to work that still works within state government code? So you don't expect that this is the end of it. You're not going to hear about this for a while. We will come back later this year with some edits. And then the other thing is this is also a separation of our policy or of our personnel section from the policy handbook. So when you approve the policy handbook tonight, I would like you to reaffirm that the personnel section is its own document at this point, so we don't have any confusion going into the future. Do we have a personnel section or not? That the 2 are living separate from each other. And the Policy and Personnel Committee will be doing a review of the personnel section as well, and we'll bring back some edits and stuff to those sections as well at a future date.
So I was the chair of that committee, and as you recall, there was a big edit that happened. This is just a minor cleanup. And I did want to bring up something that in our new legislative policy that I think maybe in the discussion I didn't either totally have right or on reflection kind of thought about. I know there was a discussion of if we need to approve something outside of a meeting, whether it would be approved with the concurrence of the committee chair or the commission chair, and it's my suggestion that we make it the commission chair because anything outside of a meeting generally goes to the commission chair. And I think in this case it would be with, of course, the advice and counsel of the committee chair, but that would be my suggestion to change that in 3.15D. And in 3.15A, looks like a placeholder that says insert policy number, and I think just remove that. So, those are my only 2 thoughts on that. And I think everything else, as you probably saw, is just clerical from what you saw last time.
Yeah, this new policy allows staff to make corrections and edits that are non-substantial in nature. That's one of the things that we did add in. So if you see an error, typo, something in there, it's a large document, just give me a heads up and I can change it without having to bring it back here.
And I'll also note that one of the benefits of having Jaron here is that he is good at that kind of thing, as I know from his previous boss. So I'm hoping that Jaron is also going to be really helpful in cleaning up any kind of errors like that and being on top of any clerical errors in the future. Yes, Craig.
So one thing Marin LAFCo worked on was per state legislation was allowing our central Marin fire folks to kind of functionally consolidate. And we did work closely with them. They made some changes. Is that now incorporated within the policy handbook, or does that stand alone in something totally separate?
It's in there.
We really didn't change anything from that process. There's only one thing, and I realized when I was looking at it today, when I was at the conference, when there was a part of the conference I wasn't as interested in, I was flipping through there. There was one part I think that we forgot to put in there, a small section that Dan had actually said, that I suggested to Dan, and Dan said, yeah, no, that would be a good thing to throw in there, which is making sure that they can define how they qualify initially to be exempt under state government code. We have it, how you qualify to be exempt under our code, but we don't ask them to qualify under state code. And I think I forgot to put that in there. So that'll be something that gets added in at a future update. But it's not a major thing because we're not getting any of those coming soon.
And we had talked about that section could be tightened up a little bit, and Dan Schwartz, who was the one who helped draft that, had no problem with that. So I think in the future that might get tightened up as well. Does anyone have any thoughts on the bigger policy issues? Because this is an opportunity to revisit any of those that we may think are not applicable anymore.
I have 2. They're more minor, not directly on point. I understand and respect that the committee didn't want to touch the public member discussion points, but we heard earlier this evening that identifying someone as a registered voter might not necessarily be legal. Since we're doing this update, let's take that out. I think it's 3.1A, page 84 of the of the document. The other is, because it also came up earlier, the fee schedule. And I'd ask that 3.11 come back just to tighten the language in that small paragraph. It says currently that we're going to maintain a schedule of fees to reasonably recover the agency's cost in fulfilling its regulatory and planning responsibilities. I'm not sure that that's consistent with the law to recover all of our costs. And I think that might be a little bit overly broad. So I think when you're looking at double checking the fee schedule in the next couple months, that we might also want to reflect that in this policy and bring this paragraph back for just a refresher.
Any other questions or comment? Is there any public comment? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment. Any further deliberation?
I'll make a motion that we approve the attached policy handbook.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Bailey, seconded by Commissioner Connolly. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes. Thank you very
You know,
much.
before we move on, though, Sashi, I'd like just to extend my compliments to our chair for real hard work and leadership in getting that thing done. It started out 100 and how many pages? Like ridiculous. It's still super long, but that was a good
It's
job,
like
Sashi. It'll help
Yeah.
our
It's half that
constituents.
now, yeah. Thank you. It was a,
Can I also add,
Yeah.
I've done this in the past, it's a thankless chore. Thank you, Dennis. And I also applaud your tenacity and endurance to go through this thing.
Thank
It's
you.
a thankless task.
once I started down the rabbit hole, I had to get there, go all the way. So
Right, you're
I
tenacious.
appreciate that. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. All right, very good. Okay, item 9, would that be Candace or? would that be you,
I'll
Jason?
take the start of it. So Candace actually did a lot of work working with BBK to update our retention policy. We had an old policy, not everything was necessarily well-defined. So what you have in front of you is a definition of what some of the retention policies are, as well as a spreadsheet which you have up on the screen, which shows here's what currently is required in the government code section. We pretty much followed verbatim what BBK suggested was the current policies for everything. The two items that we kind of took out of that, that I'm suggesting that we change, that we don't use the minimum requirements, but we actually go forward with a better requirement system, is the recording of meetings. We technically only need to keep those for 30 days. As Commissioner Bailey noted, he was watching that earlier, and he would not have had the ability to watch the last meeting unless he did it within the first 30 days and know what the interview stuff was about. I don't think that that's actually a good policy for us to get rid of our videos 30 days after it's done. My goal is right now, thanks to the Marin TV folks, the community TV folks, they actually we have our own YouTube channel and they throw all of our videos in there, and as long as that's free and it doesn't cost us anything to continue to throw them all into that one channel, we should just keep our videos for as long as we can because there's no reason to get rid of them. I've used them to go back and learn what was done prior to me being here. I know Jaron this last week and a half has been spending time on that YouTube channel, watching old videos as I've been giving him some projects to work on to find out what occurred in the past on some items. It is actually a very valuable source. So I am saying that we should keep those indefinitely as long as there's not a cost to us to do so. If it turns out that it ends up being a cost, I will come back and say, okay, now we need to have a discussion about how do we keep these videos in a better way. The other one that I would suggest changing is the special district elections. We run those elections right now, and as long as we run them, we only need to keep them for 2 years, which is not a full cycle for a special district member. I said 5 years just to give us the ability to keep them through an entire process, have the next election for that same seat, and keep them a little bit longer just to be on the safe side in case something occurs where we can't get to a candidate winning an election. So I changed that from 2 years to 5 years just to give us a little more cushion on that one. The rest of the policy is pretty much exactly what BBK gave us and is actually one that I know is used in Santa Clara right now. So that is my presentation, and I want to thank Candace for all of her hard work. She really did most of the grunt on this. I just came in and overlooked every once in a while.
And this will not be in the policy handbook, like other.
No, well, the policy handbook actually refers to this existing. So there is a mention of it in the policy handbook,
Yeah,
but this document is separate from it, because it really doesn't, it doesn't need, it's a standalone thing.
Yeah, and we're keeping now the policy handbook as just our
Yeah.
things that we vote on policies.
Correct.
Yep, which is great. Okay. All right, any questions from the commission? Any public comment? Seeing none, we'll close the public comment. Any deliberation? Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll move that we approve the revised record retention schedule.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Rodoni, seconded by Commissioner Bailey. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Thank you, Candace, for all your work on that as well. Okay, and now Executive Officer report, please.
Sure. Before I get into the items on the agenda, I first wanted to introduce and welcome officially, I know we've been talking about it a little bit, but Jaron, who is our new policy analyst, he comes to us from the great people over in Mill Valley. We stole one of our kind of own into the house here. A little background on Jaron. He, prior to being in Mill Valley, he was the general manager of a small rec district up in Northern California, who went through the MSR process when he was there and so knows what LAFCo is, knows what LAFCO does. And so now he gets to do MSRs to everyone else. So he gets to have the other side of the coin there. And so I wanted to welcome him. I did send out his resume to folks, but if anyone needs a copy of it, I do have an additional copy or two here, so I'm happy to hand it to you. But I just wanted to welcome Jaron officially to our home.
Welcome, Jaron. Anything you want to say?
Just that I am excited for the opportunity, excited to have some great mentorship from our EO, and looking forward to continue to absorb. I'm officially all the way through day 8, so continuing to absorb. Had a lot of good stuff at the conference this week, and just excited to tackle some new projects.
Thank you.
All right, so also in front of you then in the report is a budget update. We're doing pretty well on our budget. We're slightly under the percent that we should be at for how much we've spent this year, which I always like to see that we're always under rather than over. So that's a very positive thing. I'm going to run through these pretty quickly, so as I get to one, I'll look up for a quick second, and if someone has a question, raise your hand, otherwise I'll move on to the next one. So current and pending proposals, we actually have not gotten any new proposals in. We did run through in rapid pace file 1339 and 1340, which we approved at the last meeting. Those are now completed and done and have been sent off to the Board of Equalization. And I think we're waiting back for, oh, we got them today. Hey, while I was gone. We got back today the confirmation that they've received them and that everything is good. So those files have now been completed. We are still, the one I know that we're still waiting to hear on is 400 Upper Toyon Road. The folks over in San Rafael, we're supposed to have a meeting in February. They delayed it until I think it's next week, later in April, I know that for sure, to have a discussion about the master tax exchange. They're having those discussions, so once that gets determined, if they can come to a master, or not a master, but it's a regular tax exchange with the town of Ross over that property, and they both come to an agreement, that project will move forward. If it doesn't, it kind of dies on the vine because we can't approve a detachment and an annexation without having a tax exchange agreement in place. So that rule, Government Code 99, which deals with tax stuff, is on that, and there's nothing we can do about it.
Yes, Commissioner Murray.
So this might be a Mullah question. Is it appropriate if any of the parties ask you to intercede and assist in terms of coming to a master tax exchange agreement?
We're always happy to help negotiate and assist with that stuff. We have not been asked to do that with the tax exchange at this point. They don't want us in the room on that one, and so if I'm not being asked to be in the room, I'm not going to force my way in at this point. And so those, I think, are the big ones. I know that there was one, and I think Commissioner Skelton asked me about it last time. There was an extension that we did for one of the water districts. That one is still outstanding after we did the extension last December.
Which one is that? Which number is that?
Thank you. You know what? That's not going to be on this list. The attachment. Oh, there we go. It is the 1324, I think. Yeah, 1324 is the one. File number 1324. So that is that.
Excuse me. What was the location of that one?
Lucas Valley Road?
1501 Lucas Valley. It's the one that's been sitting around here for a while. We thought that they had come to a basic agreement after we met in December and we gave them the extension. I guess the 1501 folks had wanted to make one more change, and the district didn't agree to that change, and so they're still negotiating. Since Commissioner Skelton brought that one up, that should have in theory been done by now. I just wanted to give you an update on that one. I did find out about it after I did the packet.
Just clarification, that's a water district.
Yes.
Yeah, and it says terms must be completed by the end of the year, right? So they still have time
Correct.
to do
They
that.
were in theory supposed to complete it at the very end of December after we met in December. That's why we did the extension, but they didn't quite agree to what what they told us they were going to agree to. So they have until the end of the year. I would want to have a very serious discussion if they came to us again with asking for another extension at the end of this year. If they don't complete it this year, we should have a discussion about whether or not we want to have an extension done at that point.
So that was approved in 2017?
Correct.
Okay.
So that's all of the items I have any sort of report on current and pending proposals.
So are you going to remove the completed ones from this?
I leave the completed ones on there because that's part of how we report out what we've done for the current work plan cycle.
Okay, so you're just leaving it on through the end of the work?
Yeah, so when we do the next work plan, the completed ones will come off, and the ones that can give, it's just a good way to remember what we've worked on.
Yep.
And then, so for the MSRs, their Plan West is getting close to being completed, having a draft and stuff ready to go out in May. There are a little bit farther behind on the Novato stuff. To be honest, a little frustrated with them on the Novato. I thought that they were going to be able to work on these things a little bit more quickly. But they have been focusing a lot on the San Rafael one, and that was our request, was that if there's work needs to be done and you have limited resources, San Rafael goes first, Novato goes second. They had given me the impression originally that they were going to be able to do both of them semi-simultaneously, but that hasn't been the case so far. It's been a little more work on the San Rafael one, and I think they realized. So they're trying to get that one done correctly and well, which I appreciate and approve. I do approve that. So we should soon be getting a draft of some sort. And as soon as I get it, I will forward it to you all to look at, as well as once it becomes public, making it public. So they're working down that path. We're still, on track. I would imagine that San Rafael will probably still get done, or should hopefully be done by our August meeting, which was the plan. I am not as confident right now that Novato will get done by the August meeting. We might need to extend that a little bit farther out. But that shouldn't distract us from all the other work we're doing, because that's one of the reasons why we brought Plan West in, was to take that load off of us so we don't fall behind on other stuff.
Yeah. And when you say done by August, you mean that would be when we'd see the first draft, or
No,
what would be?
but August would be when in May, end of May, beginning of June is when we should be getting the draft. We will have public comment on it, have our hearing on it, and then they will take back all that information. And in August, in theory, we should be approving the MSR. And approving what will come out of it, the work plan of here's all the things we need to do, update SOIs, change districts around, whatever needs to occur. That will then follow after the August meeting.
And what kind of input is going on, or outreach?
Input-wise, they are talking with all the cities and the districts directly. So they are getting most of they've been sharing drafts with them, and so they're seeing what's going on, and they're getting the information to them and getting comments back from them, which I think is appropriate, because they're the ones that are the experts. Community outreach, I have been reaching out to folks. It's been a little dry lately because I reached out to a lot of folks early. There was people like, yeah, okay, we're kind of interested, but let us know when there's actually a report to look at, was more what people were saying to me.
And we're going to be doing, staff is going to be doing the community outreach.
Yes.
And they're doing the writing of the report. Okay.
Yeah, I've been doing the community outreach, and I've done, like I said, I've gotten to most of the people I can get to, or at least the people who are willing to talk to me at this point. Several of them were like, we'll talk to you once you have a report, show it to us, and maybe we'll invite you to our meeting to talk to us about what the report says. So there hasn't been as much outreach as I personally would like to have seen, but that's only because the community has said, we don't need you to come out just yet.
And have we, where are we on doing an off-site public meeting?
I'm trying to make sure I get a little bit closer to to when I know the draft's going to be out, and then we'll figure out a meeting. And that was going to be one of my questions I was going to have, is it could work out that the San Rafael one, that the report is out with enough time would we want to maybe use our June meeting as the hearing date for that, so we don't have to set up a different meeting in June to deal with San Rafael? We're in San Rafael here. This might be the place to do it. I don't know if you wanted to distract from all the other items we have on the agenda, because that could be a little bit longer meeting when we do that.
Commissioner Rodoni?
So, Jason, I was going to suggest to you outreach to Supervisor Conley and my staff and Katie Rice's staff to get neighborhood lists and other people that you might want to include in that outreach, because there's a lot of groups in San Rafael that are interested or potentially interested, but they may not know anything about this. So.
I know from Damon's office sent me like, here's a list of all of the neighborhood groups in San Rafael.
Okay.
I've gotten all of those. I've reached out to a lot of them. Some have never gotten back to me. Others have said, when you have a report, let us know.
And then Commissioner Arnold for Novato, is that, yeah?
No, I'm talking about San Rafael has all three of us too. We all have neighborhoods.
Oh, that's right.
In San Rafael. And then Supervisor Conley may have included those. I don't know, but.
It was a pretty comprehensive, I'm wondering if you have stuff, feel free to shoot it my way. I'll look to see if they were on his list or not. But there was, I would say, probably like 15, 20 different neighborhood groups that were on his list.
Because originally I was concerned about the consultant being so far away and be so focused on our member agencies.
Yeah.
Compiling it that they missed out on the public, so.
I mean, I've done a few, like I've been to the Federation of San Rafael Neighborhoods, which is like an umbrella for a whole bunch of other groups. And so that group, several of those folks in that group said, when you have a draft, let us know, we'll talk to you at that point.
What do
But
people?
then remember, there's a lot of unincorporated
Yeah.
areas
No, I
as
know.
well.
What do people think about having the public meeting, our June meeting, include a public hearing for the, would it be a public hearing for the MSR draft? Wouldn't be a public hearing, just a public, opportunity for public
It
comment.
would be an opportunity, I would have to figure, I'd have to go back and look at what the bylaw
Yeah.
or what the state laws say.
Is there,
about
what do the
what that hearing
commissioners think
is.
about that, since we're here?
You know, if you do that, though, they might misunderstand our role versus the cities and the county master plans, and I just food for thought. Sometimes something seems like a good idea, and it turns out differently than you're thinking as far as bringing the public in.
Well, so we had talked about, we definitely need to have an opportunity for the public to comment. The question is whether we do it at our regular meeting or whether we have a special meeting. In either case, it would be us that's hosting it and not.
And
Be careful what you ask for.
And actually, we are required to have a hearing for the draft. It is actually a requirement for us to do. So how public we advertise that hearing is a completely different issue. But
Well,
we
so,
have to have the
no, but we're
public
talking
hearing.
about two different things, though, right? So if we're talking about in June, getting some input, that's kind of it's, the whole thing gets approved in August, right?
Yeah.
Generally, there are a number of hearings, like
Right.
from what I've, like particularly if it's pretty
Right.
involved, which this one probably will be.
Right.
It's not just like one.
Well, so the question is, do we want to have that at a regular June meeting, or do we want to have that as a special meeting to get public comment? Is
Well, I
there-
mean, public comment should occur here too.
Yeah, so what I'm asking.
What do you think the advantage would be?
Of having a separate meeting, just to.
I mean,
give
given
focus?
that it's probably going to be 3 or 4 meetings, just FYI.
I mean, depending
I
on
don't
how.
think you've been through one of these yet.
No, I haven't,
Yeah.
my question is specifically about our regular June meeting and whether or not this should be just as part of the mix
Well,
of
what's
that, or
the
whether we do a
timing?
separate meeting and
So,
just put special attention.
We should
on
have
that.
a draft out in late May. So if we have the draft out in late May, June, the second week of June is a good time to have a public hearing. We need to have one. Whether or not we have 1 or 3 or 5 is up to the commission. I honestly don't see this one having a lot of controversy behind it. We're not really pushing the envelope on trying to get districts to merge together and do stuff. So I'm not sure. I know in the past that there have been multiple hearings in some cases. I don't think this one may need that unless we're looking to push the envelope and really do stuff that is going to upset a lot of people.
Okay, so it sounds like there's no problem with having that draft be presented at the June meeting, and they'll be out in May. And potentially, as Commissioner Connolly mentioned, we might potentially need to have an additional meeting to have further public comment.
Can I ask a question of staff on that? Two questions. Do you have any forecast as to how heavy the June meeting is going to be independent of a potential MSR draft release?
The only thing I have right now, really, that we would be looking at would be the budget. I don't think there's really much else. I mean,
And your
not to say
contract
that-
renewal.
Yeah, my contract renewal. There'll be like stuff that is budget related, contract renewal. I'm not thinking there's really anything else, although you never know. You get a few applications in, all of a sudden you get a crowded meeting. So,
Yeah.
but I don't see any contracts coming to us. I don't see any of that type of stuff
Okay.
occurring.
I think that's a good thing and lends credence to having the draft at the regular scheduled meeting. Second question for staff is, I guess I heard May, then it kind of sounded like late May we're going to get it. I think when we do have the release of the draft, there are two components that are important. One, we want to make sure internally that it's a good work product. If we haven't gotten our eyes on it, and I mean, if staff hasn't kind of reviewed it and vetted it, I don't want to release a poor product to the public so that they come in because it just hasn't been, reviewed properly. And then second component to that is I want to make sure that when we do release it to the public, we don't release it on Monday for a Thursday hearing, that they have, I mean, these are large documents. If I was a member of these communities, I would probably want at least 2 to 3 weeks, just digest it, to talk to friends, to talk to other community members. So I think it may warrant a special meeting towards the latter half of the month, but not so that it conflicts with 4th of July when you're going to find a lot of people maybe out of town.
Yeah, I will say, I would never bring it to this body for a public hearing if we didn't have enough time for the public to actually review it. That's the whole purpose of the process. I agree with you, the 2 to 3 week window is a minimum of what I would want, which is why I'm saying if I don't see something by mid-May, late May, it's not going to be on the regular June meeting. I agree with you 100% on that. Correct, yeah, it would be released in advance. I'd be getting it out to everybody. It would end up being in the packet, but it will be out to everyone long before the packet ever gets put together.
So I was just going to suggest that we at least have 30 days from when it's released to when we have the first public input. People need time to review it. Even our member agencies need time to look at it. And if it's going to be useful, I think we want to give them plenty of time. Otherwise, that first meeting will be a lot of, we didn't have time to look at it, comments. And so I think, and I also think, well, you have a great timeline, but because we don't meet that often, August may be a little bit too soon to think that we're going to sign off on this final.
I mean, it sounds like the first reading might not even be till July then.
Yeah.
Well,
If
we
you
don't
want
meet
30
in July,
We
so
don't
we
meet in
meet
July,
in
that's what
June
I
and
mean.
August, so.
So,
As long as,
I mean, I'm fine with a special meeting in July.
So just pointing out that the member agencies will have been seeing drafts all along, so they'll have time. It's really the public that we need to make sure has enough notice. And it sounds like you're for 30 days notice for the public, and you mentioned 2 or 3 weeks. So I think maybe you keep us posted on what.
happy to keep you posted, and I think 30 days is that'll be pushing it if we can get it on the June calendar or not, but I will let Plan West know that we want San Rafael by X date.
Yeah, and this is your first one and their first one, so it's got to be done well and not be rushed out, so.
Agreed completely.
Yeah, good point. Very good point. Okay. And then, so that means that Novato would be after that?
Correct.
Right? Okay.
Novato's not even on my calendar right now because I haven't seen enough of it to put it on the calendar.
Okay, so you'd mentioned that they were doing them simultaneously, but they're not really. They're doing them sequentially.
It turns out that they're really not going to be able to do that. They originally told us they could or thought they could, but as they've gotten into it, they decided that it was better to focus on make sure they're both very good and not sloppy in what they turn into us.
Okay.
Okay, so then the only other thing I'll update on that is with Jaren starting probably in late April, early May, we're going to actually start meeting with all of the next round of MSR districts and cities and start having a discussion about what are they looking at, what do they want, and then we'll give Jaren a little extra time to start working on, since this will be his first one working on and our first in-house one. It'll give us a little more than a year to complete the two that will fall under Jaren's direction to be drafting up for us.
And will you remind us what those next two are?
They include Strawberry in that region. I only know because I know Strawberry and
Is that the South 101 corridor?
yeah. I don't remember what the exact names of them are. I apologize to you on that. There's that one, and it's one of the other southern area. I don't want to say it's southern Marin, but one of the others south of us here are the next two in the group to go. So Jaron will be starting on that late April, early May. We'll start doing those first meetings just to see what's out there. I already know Strawberry Rec District has some issues for us. I already know CSA 29, which is a dredging one, has some issues for us, because those I learned when I did my initial outreach to everybody. But we'll see if there's any new ones that pop up as well, just to make sure we're paying attention to that as we're going into the process.
I have a quick question on that. Is there any opportunity for Jaron to get auxiliary training through Plan West, since they're going through this process and he's just coming on board for this?
It's not in the current contract with Plan West. If we wanted to have a discussion about increasing what we pay them, we could do that. I think that we can learn most of what they've done. Part of when I get to it a little bit later in my update, Marin LAFCo, he's been learning stuff from them and been reaching out. So I think we have some ability to do it without us costing the money that Plan West would charge us to do it. I think we have some better ways to do that. And he will see all of their products, so at the end of the day, he'll kind of know that side of it. And then the final update I have on the list here is special district elections. Earlier this week, we received enough ballots to have quorum. So we have not counted the ballots yet. We will not count the ballots until I think it's April 23rd at 1 p.m. is when I'm counting the ballots. They're due on April 22nd, so their districts still have more time to turn in their ballots. And then on the 23rd, we will, as I said, count those ballots and determine who our winning candidate is for the regular seat. There are 3 candidates running, one of which is, there's only one person who ran for the alternate seat, who's one of the 3 running for the regular seat as well. So depending on who wins the regular seat, either that person gets... it is Lou, Jack, and then Todd from Sanitation District number 5. Todd Moody? Todd Moody, right. Yeah. Who are the 3 that are running for the regular seat. Todd has already been put into the alternate seat when that seat opens up with the new cycle. If he gets elected to the regular seat, we would have a vacant alternate seat and have to go through the process again to elect an alternate. So we'll see how that election turns out. I have been already updating Todd on what's going on. He had another board meeting tonight. He normally doesn't have board meetings on this particular night, the second Tuesday or Thursday of the month. But he had a special one tonight, so he couldn't be here. But I've already been updating him. He's already been getting I sent him the packet, so he had all the information. And then the final thing I'll just give an update on is, as I've mentioned earlier, yesterday, today, and I will be going back tomorrow. Marin LAFCo is doing its staff workshop, so we've been learning a lot. Jaron joined the meetings. He was able to go down for yesterday and today. He will not be going back tomorrow. Tomorrow is more general session type stuff, and I wanted him to be able to focus on some other stuff rather than go back for that. And it's a long drive down there for a half a day of general session activities, of learning out what legislation is currently going on, stuff that he's not really going to be working on. So I'll be going back down for that part. So if you need me, call me on my cell, shoot me a text, that type of stuff, because I will be down there. And then when I'm done, I'll just work whatever's left of the day at home, just because it'll take me too long to get back up to the office up here. And so with that, Jaron, I know, has learned a lot, and he's told me he's already ready to have our first MSRs done by Monday, because he learned so much. So that is all I have to report.
Okay, any commissioner announcements and requests? No, could I entertain a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Moved by Commissioner Skelton. Do we have a second on the motion to adjourn? Second by Commissioner Baker, all in favor?
Well, it's been a pleasure seeing you here.